this is the night to be here. Okay. So welcome everybody. Welcome to Zoom at 8. My name is Julianne Peterson and I'm with Old Capital Lending. And I am your host tonight as every Tuesday night of Zoom at 8. So thanks so much for making Tuesday a priority. We've been doing this for 3 years. We've closed 11 deals. And I think we have one more coming. Hopefully, if Rhea can get this one, we're going to make her number 12. So you guys, I'm excited about real estate. I'm excited about multifamily. It is a crazy time for lending, I'll tell you that. We still are seeing some bridge lending. We were 80% of our business was in bridge, but boy, oh boy, the rate caps are just killing some of these deals. So I think you're going to see some changes over the next 12 months. So hang tight, be positive. Something's gonna happen for you. This is the long game. So we're here again every Tuesday night. We're here to build relationships, to help educate you with experts in the field. So, you know, we at Old Capital, we've closed 6,500 loans. That's a lot of loans. So if you are looking at a deal and you need some high level just to kind of underwrite it, let me know. I'll be putting my information in the chat box. And like you, I would encourage you to get your information in the chat box. And so other people can take your information and start dialing for dollars and relationships. You know, it's like going to one of these conferences. We spend thousands and thousands of dollars every year on conferences. You pick up everybody's card and then you put them in the pile and you never reach out. Don't make that happen here tonight. You've got a week to call some new people and get to know them, encourage them to partner, encourage them to make connections with other people that you might know. Now, this is why you showed up, not to hear me talk, but to hear our speaker. And tonight is going to be amazing because Matt has been with us for probably a half a year. Matt has been showing up and we know him, but we don't know him. So I get the great pleasure to introduce you guys to Matt Picheny. He is a real estate investor. He's also a Tony Award winner and an author of a #1 best-selling book, Backstage Guide to Real Estate. We have a rock star in the house along with Casey, with 15 years of experience revitalizing and elevating communities through real estate investment. He has invested in over 8,000 apartments nationwide. Hey, Matt is focused on developing passive income. And he's also enabling investors to write their own story and choose how they want to use their time, not your bosses. Okay. So he's a licensed real estate agent. He's earned both commercial real estate and real estate finance certificates from Boston University. He's a member of the Forbes Real Estate Council. He's a member of the Fast Company Executive Board and is an advisor for a prop tech company. You guys, this guy's resume goes on and on. He's married with 2 kids, and his wife also is an award-winning, Tony Award-winning, as a co-producer on the Broadway show Moulin Rouge. Moulin Rouge. This was my favorite play and American Utopia. So you can tell I am just super excited. And by the way, here's what's so crazy. This world is so small. If you don't know me, you're going to learn something. I have been a spin instructor for 26 years. I've gone nowhere for 26 years, 5 days a week. I've been teaching this. And, you know, with COVID, we were not able to teach. You know, people were dying with these damn COVID masks on. I said, we're done. So I had to buy a Peloton. And I'm very particular. If you know me, I'm a little particular. And so I don't do much on Instagram, but the other night I tuned into my favorite spin instructor. Her name is Christine. And I'm scrolling through her pictures. And who do I see with my best friend, Christine? But Matt Picheny is in the house with my favorite Peloton instructor in New York. How does that happen? How is it that I know these two people? They don't know me. Christine doesn't know me beyond anything. But Matt is, this is how great this community is. I get to know Matt. Now I'm going to know Christine. The whole world revolves around Zoom at 8. So I'm glad you guys are all here. Matt, how does that happen?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. That picture is from the closing night of American Utopia. So my wife and I are co-producers on that show. And that was about a month ago. It was my first time meeting Christine, but my wife's known her for a few months now. They met at a Broadway show. They started conversing. So actually my wife knows who Christine is because my wife got a Peloton. She's an avid Peloton person, but when we first got the Peloton, I started doing it a little bit, and Christine's music is mine. Like it's my type of music. And I told my wife, I'm like, oh, you got to check out this instructor. She's awesome. Great music, blah, blah, blah. So my wife's been doing her rides for quite some time, saw her at a Broadway show. They hit it off, started talking. Matter of fact, Christine came and saw American Utopia and loved the show so much. She did a ride. I'm sure it's probably still on Peloton. There's an American Utopia ride where she dresses up in the silver costumes like they do on in the show American Utopia. And she does a whole ride of her, for those of you who don't do Peloton, it's, it's a workout as a ride.
It's a cult.
It's on a bicycle thing. And she does all David Byrne songs and stuff. Yeah. It was very cool. She was a big fan of the show. And so we invited her to join us, her and her fiance at the closing night. My wife and her are buddies now. And I think they're going to see Macbeth or something in a few weeks together.
So I may have to call upon a little favor from you, but we'll talk about that later.
Okay,
now,
yeah, we can talk about it.
Now listen, before we get all into this, because I'm on the edge of my seat again, make sure that you put your contact information in the chat. Okay. Now, if you have to leave for some ungodly known reason, and these things happen, make sure you take the conversation in the chat box with you. Now, how do you do that? Open up the chat box. Okay. And there's 3 little dots. You can do it all together, just like the teacher. Hey, 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 this is how it goes. Press the 3 little dots and up will come up this save the chat. So you don't need to get your phone out and take pictures of the chat, okay? This is here for you. It's a fantastic way, but be respectful of people's time and their contact information. It'd be very bad if people said, oh, I got on that Zoom call and everybody was blasting me with garbage. Please do not do that. Be respectful. All right, so Matt Picheny, I'm super excited. Tonight is your night and we're here to listen for the next 35, 40 minutes. They are, I want to understand who you are, how you got to where you are. I was born, wherever. I want to know that. But the things that I want to know is through this time that you've been doing multifamily, and I hope you're going to go over this when you speak to us.
Yeah.
Your partner relationships, the education that you got, the capital raising, how that's gone, challenges, okay? What are you working on? How maybe we can help? Words of wisdom. And then I want to know how we can be your groupie. All right. Those are the things I want you covered. Okay. Everybody else.
I'll try. I don't know. My remarks are already.
It's a big ask. I know.
My remarks are already prepared. So I hope that they'll.
You're going to do great.
They'll fit. I think I'm going to cover all of that stuff and probably.
I know you will. I'm positive. But before you take off, everybody, if you would go to the right-hand side of your screen, top right, put speaker view, please. Okay. Then you see my face. Hello, everybody. And when Matt starts talking, you're going to get to see him live and in person, and all your focus is on Matt. So Matt, take it away. I'm super excited you're here.
Great, thanks. Actually, what I'd love to do, if it's okay, is it cool if I just go ahead and share my screen with everybody like that? Is that good? Can everyone You're muted, but I'm assuming you can.
You are good. You are
okay,
excellent.
Cool.
Yeah.
Excellent. Hey, everyone. Thanks for coming tonight. I've got way too many slides to do in 30 or 45 minutes. So I'm going to try to rush through some of these, get through it as quickly as possible. Hopefully it'll be entertaining and won't bore you. I promise I will do my best to make sure that that doesn't happen. But this is a little presentation called Scaling from Zero. I'm going to go over the top 5 keystone concepts that I use to build my portfolio. A quick disclaimer, I'm not a lawyer. I am not a CPA. There are professionals out there. Talk to professionals. I'm not giving any professional advice. And here it is. Here's the hook. I forget who was the one who was talking earlier and said they needed the hook, but I said it was on slide 4. There will be a quiz. That's the hook, okay? There's going to be a quiz on this, and there will be fabulous prizes. So pay attention. There's going to be a quiz at the end.
Oh,
all right.
Can't wait.
So I'm going to talk about my book, Backstage Guide to Real Estate, because my book tells my story. It's all about my journey through real estate. And it'll address all of the questions that Julie Ann has asked for me to talk about. Where did that come from? Where did the idea for the book came from? It came from this group. This was a meetup group that I ran when I lived in Boston, Massachusetts. It was a group that I helped grow, and I was a host of it. And, it got really big. And what happened was we got a lot of people who were interested in investing in real estate as passive investors. It was a lot of people who had investments locally. Maybe they owned a triplex or a duplex, but they wanted to learn how to go bigger. And over time, they started to get more and more comfortable with the idea of looking out of state at properties. But a lot of them were a little apprehensive, might I say a little, dubious of sponsors who would be bringing them information and would ask me, hey, Matt, will you sit down with me and go over this underwriting? I know that you invest. So Juliana mentioned I'm in quite a lot of units, but 2/3 of that portfolio, those are deals I'm a limited partner in. So this group knew that I did a lot of limited partner investments and that I ran my own deals. So they would come to me and ask me for help, which I loved doing. But as this group grew bigger and bigger and bigger, my time was getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And I decided, why don't I write it all down on a piece of paper? I really wanted to help all these people, but I was running out of time. I didn't have the time in the day to give them. So what I did, I put together this little thing. I dictated this. I called it the Passive Investor's Handbook. And I dictated this on my phone in my backyard in the course of about a week. And I came up with an 80-page book that was the most boring thing you've ever read in your entire life. It was like eating cardboard. And it just was not good. It had a lot of great information in there, but it was so densely packed and really so much inside baseball information in there. It just wasn't going to be palatable to normal people. So I then decided to go back and share all this information in a way that would be easy for people to understand. And I decided the best way to do that was to tell the story of my journey. So the book now tells my journey. It's now called Backstage Guide to Real Estate. This is the final book. And it tells my journey in real estate and shares with the reader the 18 different keystone concepts that I've learned along my way. I also have 60 different real estate terms that are defined in the book. And it's hopefully an easy, fun read. I try to put some humor in there. And the whole, the subtitle of this book is Produce Passive Income, Write Your Own Story, and Direct Your Dollars Towards Positive Change. And that's really what I'm hoping that people will get out of reading the book. So this book starts off with me, me and my wife, at a pivotal moment when we decided she got a job offer in Miami, Florida. We were living in New York at the time. And she took that job opportunity. And that was the time that I read that purple book. Now, I had been involved in real estate tangentially as a hobby for about 10 years without having read that purple book. But I'm sure most of you have read that, Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And what I really got out of that book, the thing that was really on top of my mind, was that I needed to create passive streams of income, right? He talks about creating multiple streams of passive income. And I had a couple of them and I wanted to do more. At that time, The Kiyosaki book. I was actually an audio book. I do much better with audiobooks than reading them. And during that time, I was also listening to Hamilton, the Broadway show. My wife Erica and I actually had invested in the show, and I had just come out maybe 8 or 9 months prior. It was doing really well, and we loved the show so much. I mean, that was in constant rotation in our house, right? We were always listening to it or in our cars. And so at this time in my life, we had just moved down to Miami. I'm listening to Kiyosaki say, create passive income streams. I'm listening to the cast of Hamilton say, don't throw away your shot. Meanwhile, I'm out there interviewing for a job because we had just moved down to Miami for a job in the advertising industry, which is where I used to work. And I finally had this, epiphany one day while listening to take my shot was, hey, what am I doing? Why am I trying to get a job in advertising? I didn't really like it. I was kind of burned out. I had done it for 18 years in New York. Real estate was where my passion was, and I had been doing it as a hobby pretty successfully for 10 years. Why am I throwing away my shot? So I decided to go ahead and do that. I spoke with my wife. She was on board. And I decided to go ahead and do that. So, then I go back in the book and I flash back to the early days. So let me just take you a little bit up to where I just was. So, I grew up in the 70s and 80s in Orlando, Florida. This is me in front of an apartment. I lived in that unit right there, right behind me in Oakwood Village in 1976. This is me the first day of preschool. And I really wish it wasn't cut off. I wish my parents would have taken a better picture so you could see the bell bottoms. You can kind of see them flaring out down there. And look at how wide the collar is. I look like I'm getting ready for an episode of Starsky and Hutch. So I grew up in Florida. And then by the time I was in high school, I was dancing down Main Street, USA at Disney World as a costume character. This is me dressed as Mowgli from the Jungle Book. And that's what I did in high school. I had caught the performing bug in preschool. I had done a show, and then just throughout the years, I started doing more and more, was really interested in acting and pursuing a career in theater. I moved to New York City. This is my headshot from 1994, looking very Beverly Hills 90210, I think. But this was my headshot when I was a professional actor, and I actually was pretty successful. For 5 years, I was in 15 different productions. This is just a few of them, all across the United States. All musicals, and I loved it. I had the time of my life doing that. I started tinkering around with computers on the side. That was something that I enjoyed doing, and ended up being able to make a career out of that. So, the book, I think I told you, has 18 different Keystone Concepts, and I'm going to share 5 of those with you tonight. So Keystone Concept number 2 is be persistent. So Julie Andrews is attributed with saying perseverance is failing 19 times and succeeding on the 20th, or Captain Taggart for those of you who like Galaxy Quest, right? Never give up, never surrender. Persistence has been something that's been really important and been one of the things that has helped propel me throughout my career. So after the acting, I started doing some computer work, and I worked at a bunch of different advertising agencies throughout Madison Avenue over my career. But getting into chapter 3 of the book, I talk about how I had bought my first apartment. So it's interesting because we're on a meetup here. Someone shows a building and you assume someone bought the building. I just bought this little unit over here. Okay, I wasn't at a point where I was buying buildings, but I bought this little apartment on the upper west side of Manhattan in a place called Washington Heights. And a little over 2 years later, I was able to sell that apartment, and I had added value to that apartment. And that's something that's really, really important that I found out. I didn't even realize what I was doing at the time, that it wasn't like a strategy I had, like of adding value, but the apartment itself needed some work. We did some work on it, but the building had been built in the 80s and it looked like it. It was really bad shape. It was nasty. The hallways were gross. The lobby was disgusting. And it was a co-op building. So I joined forces with the co-op board. They asked me to join this committee they had. We hired a designer. We redid the lobby, the hallways, and the place looked so much nicer than when I had bought it. So a little over 2.5 years later, I sold it, and I saw my initial investment in the deal more than quadruple in value. And I go over that in detail in the book. We don't have time tonight, but it more than quadrupled in value. So then I used the profits from that to buy an apartment on the Upper West Side, because that's where I wanted to live. And you know, once again, not the whole building, just this unit over here. But I bought that place, and I was feeling really good. So then I decided, well, I'm a real estate genius, right? I just, you know, quadrupled my money in 2.5 years. I know what I'm doing. So I decided to go up and purchase some land in Northwest Connecticut and build a house there, because that's what you do when you're a real estate genius. So this was a piece of land that I have bought. It was on this lake. It wasn't, the property isn't on the lake. The property is a little away from the lake. It wasn't lakefront, but it was a really cool community. As you can see in the bottom right, there's 8 tennis courts. There's a marina. There's a clubhouse. There's an Olympic-sized pool. It was awesome. And this is what I bought, almost an acre of tree-filled land in the middle of Connecticut. And then a couple of years later, we marked the trees, knocked them down, and designed a house. And this is me learning, like, literally from the ground up what real estate is all made of. So this is us pouring the foundation, actually. So over a period of about a little over a year, we built the house. And then I had this house. Was initially going to be a vacation home, but certain circumstances came up in my life where I wasn't never really around that area, and I ended up renting it. And I rented it all year round. It was short-term rentals, but you know, throughout the year I would rent it. And I learned a lot about real estate. I learned about dealing with tenants and leases and agreements and managing property, especially when you live 2 hours away. And I learned about the really fun stuff, which I call bean counting 101 in the book. So talking about depreciation, taxes, all that fun stuff. So this house, which I initially thought was going to be a vacation home for me, turned out to be more of a rental home, and is really what set me on the path to where I am today as an owner of thousands of apartment units. I moved on from there to actually moving from the Upper West Side to Brooklyn with my wife. So I got married in between the finishing of the house and where I am now in my story. And we were pregnant with our first kid. And so we needed a little bit of a bigger place than the small little 1-bedroom I had in Manhattan. And I was looking to buy something in Brooklyn and ended up finding a 2-family house that I could buy. And so I call this the accidental house hack, because nowadays everyone calls it a house hack. I didn't know it was a thing. I just knew I needed a place to live. And it made more sense when I ran the numbers if I bought something where I could actually have another family, have a second unit in the townhome and pay me rent. Their portion of the rent was less than half, was more than half of the mortgage payment. So we had a little bit of a better unit because we even had the backyard and we were paying less than our tenants. Worked out very nicely. I also knew that if I ever moved from there, if we could keep the place, we'd be able to rent it, and I'd be able to rent out my unit for more than what the people upstairs were paying, which would mean we would have some nice positive cash flow. So this is our townhouse in Brooklyn that we bought in 2013. And then it brings us back to the sort of beginning of where I started, where Erica, my wife, got an amazing job opportunity in Miami. We moved down there. I had no work prospects whatsoever, was trying to figure out what I'm going to do, and said, you know what? I'm going to do real estate. So on January 1st, 2016, after discussing with my wife, and she agreed, I said, you know what? I'm going to start to try to have a career full-time in real estate as a real estate investor. I was looking in the Miami area, couldn't really find anything that made sense. It's a pretty frothy market down there. And that's when I came up with Keystone Concept number 8. explore other markets. So it's okay to invest out of state. You got to invest where the numbers are going to make sense for you, even if it's not in your backyard. So if you're not okay with investing in Miami, which is a pretty speculative market, and that's where you live, look somewhere else, right? Very important. I'll talk more about that in a second. So I'm going to gloss over this. Here's some nice, pretty before and after pictures of some houses that I renovated, right? Before, after, a couple of turnkey single family houses that I bought that have done very well. And then I joined then I started to learn about syndication. I joined a mentorship group. I invested in a deal in Albuquerque, New Mexico, that just like Bugs Bunny used to say, I made a wrong turn in Albuquerque. It did not go as planned. And I learned a lot of valuable things during that. And that's when I realized that there are 3 deal pillars. So that's Keystone Concept number 12. There are 3 deal pillars when you're looking at a deal, right? The sponsor, the market, and most importantly, and the deal. The most important is the sponsor, right? The sponsor is the most important thing that you're going to look at when you're looking at these deals. And then I went into charting a course for financial freedom. So, I started investing in multifamily syndications. And so I invested in these 6 properties before I sponsored my first deal. Now I wanted to sponsor a deal. I wanted to be a sponsor, but I didn't, it took me a couple of years. It took me 2 years actually to find my first deal as a sponsor. And so while I was doing that, I was also investing passively. I learned from investing in these other deals, right? Because I could see how other sponsors were doing their deals. I also made money off of them, which was very nice. All of these deals did pretty well, actually. So I had some nice passive income coming from them. And then finally, lo and behold, in 2018, sunrises in Kansas. And I found my first deal. This whole chapter is about finding my first deal. Now, you'll remember I talked about earlier exploring other markets, right? So I had looked at the entire US. I didn't want to sponsor a deal in another country. I thought that might be going overboard. But I knew I lived in Miami and I was willing to take a look at some other markets. I first started looking in Cleveland. Those houses that I showed you earlier, those flips, those were all around the Cleveland area. I was looking there, couldn't find anything good. I also looked in Florida. I was living in Miami at the time. I grew up in Orlando. My parents still live in Orlando. I was looking at anything basically from Jacksonville all the way down to Sarasota. Okay. And I just looked and looked and looked and looked. I made it into a couple of best and finals, but couldn't find anything that made sense. I ended up checking out Kansas City, which is a whole long story. But basically, I had spent a summer there when I was an actor, and one of my best friends had moved there, and I really liked Kansas City. I didn't think I was going to when I first did that show down there, and was blown away with the city itself. And actually, some of the deals were penciling out. They don't anymore, but they were at the time in Kansas City. So I started looking in Kansas City. Now, to get that first deal, I told you it took me over 2 years. I started a spreadsheet after I was about 20 properties in, because I was just getting discouraged. And this is just a screenshot of like some of the literally over 100 deals that I underwrote to figure out what I wanted. So that goes back to my Keystone Concept number 2. Remember, be persistent, right? Julie Andrews, be persistent. So I, after trying 3 different markets and analyzing over 100 deals, I think it was 107 deals, I got a syndication together and we bought Sunrise Properties in Lawrence, Kansas. This was a 132 unit property. This is my first deal. It was a $10 million, but actually it was $9.9 million. But then we also had some additional money that we raised for capital expenditures. And guess who did the loan for this property? Old Capital. Yeah, Old Capital.
There it goes.
This loan, Mr. James Ang. I didn't know Julianne back then, or I would have talked with her. Probably. But anyway, this was an Old Capital thing that they helped us with. This deal went really well. And so what I did for this deal was I chose a partner who knew more than me, right? So that's the last Keystone Concepts for tonight. Keystone Concept number 5. Choose partners who know more than you, because you partner with experienced people. you're going to bring something to the table, hopefully for them, and they're going to bring their experience to the table. And then as you progress in your career, like at this point, I've got, some more experience. And so I still try to work with people who know more than me, but I also try to reach down to people who don't know as much as me and help bring people up, right? So the last sentence, then as you grow, reach up and down to help newer investors. So I really like helping people who are new to the business. There's people, I'm not going to call out any names, who are on this call who are newer, and I've had conversations with them and given them some advice and some thoughts and try to help them out, because that's just kind of what I do. So yeah, this was me and Justin Martinez was my partner on that. We actually do deals. Almost every deal I've ever done has been with Justin. He's awesome, really great guy. This is us doing due diligence at the property, right? So me and a team of people on the upper left, we walked every single one of those 132 units. I walked in and took a look at them. In the center, that's a picture of me with the plumber, and we're going and we're scoping the drains. That's a camera he's got down there. We're checking to make sure they all connect to the city sewer without problems. And then this is us looking at the electrical panels on the right, making sure that all the electric looks good. So, chapter 9 in my book talks all about that deal, from finding it through the operations, through the sale. We actually had a really nice successful exit on that deal. And then the last 2 chapters of the book are really fun, besides just their cool titles. So buying a multifamily out of thin air is about me buying this property literally out of thin air by selling air rights that I had in New York City. So I traded those air rights for this property. And then the second part of this deal, which is the last chapter, is called Real Estate Tricks for Magicians in Training. And that is about how I completed that transaction, not only through selling the air rights, but I did a 1031 exchange. And then it talks about the value add that I did, and runs through the numbers on how the value add made money. So, and now at this point, I've sponsored quite a bit of properties. Here's a look at my portfolio. We've got, quite a few different deals here. We've got 4 properties on the bottom that we've exited. All those exits were supposed to be between 14 to 16% IRR. We've surpassed our projections, which is awesome. That Broadway Ridge, we actually just sold a couple of weeks ago. The IRR is actually going to go up. We have to wait to close out, but it's probably going to get closer to 24% IRR. And I do have a deal right now, and it's a 506C deal, so I'm allowed to say about it online. But I do have another deal in Dallas that we're in the middle of. It's a 418 unit community in Fort Worth. So that's happening. But I've also grown my limited partner portfolio quite a lot. So here's a look at it. There's quite a bunch of the buildings kind of all over the place. And a lot of them have exited. Here's all the ones that we've exited, right? So it's been good. And I've got some new ones actually that I don't even have photos of yet that we're just acquiring. So that's pretty cool. And then the last part of the book is a lot of fun, I think. It's called the Backstage Toolbox. And what it does is it's got 4 sections. One's about sizing up a syndication. So the kinds of questions that a passive investor might want to ask a active investor about the sponsor of the market and the deal. It's fun because it asks the question and then it gives a key, hey, if your sponsor says this, it's a thumbs up. If they say this, a question mark, or if they say this answer, it's a thumbs down. Then I go into something that I think that people on this call would love, which is the nitty gritty. I call it the backstage tour of syndications, where I get into all kinds of technical details. And then the last 2 sections are kind of like little recaps. They're just a few pages each. I recap the 18 different Keystone Concepts, and then all 60 of the real estate definitions that I have throughout the book are all defined also in the back. It tells you what page they're on, so you could go back to that part of the story to refresh your memory. So that's all Backstage Guide to Real Estate. Produce passive income, write your own story, and direct your dollars towards positive change. We don't really, I think, have time for this last section. So I was going to do a little thing about some of the things that I learned and sort of decided to rebrand my company. And that was all from writing the book. But I don't think we have time for that right now. We can maybe go back to it because I want to make sure we have time for the quiz, because I think this is going to be everybody's favorite part. So this is what I'm going to ask us to do. I am going to ask that you raise your hand And I'm going to ask that Julie would be so kind, Julianne, if you would decide who is the person who's going to answer the question. I think they could like either like raise their hand physically, or I think if you use the chat button, if you click on the if you click on the participants, maybe, I don't know, there's some way to
Yeah,
raise your
so
hand.
there is a way to raise your hand. It is on a reaction, and if you click on reactions along the bottom, there is a raise hand. Okay, so
All right. So, well, wait, we have hands up, but I haven't even asked the question yet.
oh, well, we'll start.
Bill? All right.
Oh.
Bill. All right. Only raise your hand if you know the answer. I'm giving away fabulous prizes. Can anyone guess what the prize is going to be?
I think it's a trip to Hawaii.
No, it's not.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Bill, what do you think the prize is going to be?
Less than fabulous.
What?
Less than fabulous.
Less than fabulous. Thank you. I appreciate that. Anybody else have any ideas what the prize is going to be?
Copy a book.
Copy of my book.
Moses, you are so smart. Every
All right.
week.
We'll hope Moses gets one of these questions right.
Okay.
All right. So here we go. So hold on.
Is everybody prepared with their reaction?
Okay. Who is attributed with saying perseverance is up? I see a hand up. Perseverance is failing 19 times and succeeding on the 20th.
So Candace is the first one. Candace, what's your answer?
Julie Andrews.
Julie Andrews is correct. Candace.
And everybody,
I have a signed
we all
copy,
go
Matt.
wild.
You can have, yes, I'd be happy to send you a signed copy. This is what I'm going to ask that we do. Let me just put in the chat really quick my email address for everybody. If I'm going to mail you the book, which I'm happy to do, I need your mailing address. So they're matt@picheny.com. I just put it in the chat
box. Yep, it's there.
Just send me a quick email tonight and say, hey, Matt, I won I got question, whatever, right. Please send me a copy of the book. And if you want my John Hancock in the book, just let me know. I'm happy to sign them for you.
Oh, this is fantastic.
So question number 2, what can you add to a deal that may have a dramatic and positive impact to your bottom line? What can you add? This is not, this question is not so specific. It's a little more broad, right? What can you add that may have a dramatic and positive impact to your bottom line?
So Kenneth is the first with the hand up.
Oh, value?
Bing, 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 add value. Great job, Kenneth.
Yay.
All right.
2
I already
for
have your
2.
book too, so you can.
Oh,
give
he
it
already
away
has
too.
your book.
Yeah.
But it's not signed.
That's okay. But it's not signed. You're right.
I'll send you a signed one if you want. If you don't
Cool.
want it, that's cool.
No,
too.
absolutely.
I don't
Thanks,
send
man.
Another one, but
That's
if you
awesome.
want it, yeah. Okay. Question number 3. This is one of the Keystone Concepts. I mentioned it several times. Oh, a hand already went up. Explore other what? Explore other what?
So Jason is in the house. He was the first one. Jason.
Markets.
Explore other markets. Good job, Jason. You
Yay.
got it right. Shoot me an email and I'll send you a copy of the book. All right. Question number 4. There's 7 questions in total, by the way.
Oh, okay, good. Thank you.
What are the 3 deal pillars? Who knows the 3 deal pillars?
Okay, so Moses has his hand up. Does he only get one to answer one of the 3?
He's got to get all 3 of them.
All
if he wants
3.
to
Oh my
win.
gosh, Moses.
If he wants to.
Sponsor, the market, and the deal.
Bing, 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 you win. And Moses, if you're in New York City, I would like to take you out for a cup of coffee and hand deliver the book to you.
Oh,
Awesome.
that is such a deal.
So
Sounds good.
shoot me an email. We'll go meet in person.
I need a
Alright.
picture. It didn't
in
happen
Brooklyn.
unless I
Oh,
see
yeah.
the picture.
We will. Well, we'll take a picture. We'll post it on LinkedIn and tag you.
Okay, good. All right, this is
mention
excellent.
Zoom at 8. Okay.
Okay,
cool.
perfect.
Okay. Question number 5. Choose partners who blank, 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 blank.
Oh, blank, blank.
Choose partners. Remember, this was the last Keystone concept that we talked about. Choose partners who blank, 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 blank.
Ryan, catch 'em. What do you
Choose
got?
partners who are smarter than yourself or smarter than me.
Oh, I'm going to give it to him.
Oh, wait.
Oh,
It's
is
not
it
the
every exact word?
It's not the exact words, but I think it's the spirit that counts. And so,
You,
yes,
yes.
choose partners.
Well,
who
see, it
know
wouldn't
more
be smarter
you.
than you, it'd be smarter than me, right? Or you know what I'm saying? That's the idea.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And so I got this picture of Albert Einstein because he's smarter than all of us. So, yeah, choose partners who know more than you. Okay, great. All right. Oh, I guess there's only 6 questions.
Oh, dang
Right?
it.
This is the last. I
Okay,
think
this is
the last
it.
one. I'm pretty sure this is the last one. I know this one's really hard. So I mentioned it like 16 times during the presentation to try to get it into your head. Okay. But it's the subtitle for the book, right? Backstage Guide to Real Estate. Produce passive blank. Write your own blank. And direct your dollars towards blank, blank. You got to get all 4 of these right to win the prize.
Man, this is a tough
Don't
one.
friggin' Google it or go on Amazon.
Do,
that's
do,
cheating.
do.
Backstage Guide to Real Estate. Produce passive. Passive. Come on, you guys know what the passive thing is, right? Like the second one's easy because it gives it away. Write your own.
Oh my goodness. I don't have any hands
And direct
raised.
your dollars towards blank, blank. This is the first time. Usually everybody gets this right.
Hey,
This is crazy.
this is late in the night for
I
some
didn't
of
do a
us.
good
So
enough job hammering it in. I'm sorry, people.
anybody? Let's see. Carl. Oh, look at that. Produce passive. Come on. I can see that. Write your own. And direct your dollars towards.
Anyone want to try? Nobody really wants the book, I think.
Okay. Oh, I have one. Candace for number 2. Question number. She's going to get 2 books. Candace, what do you got?
I will try. So produce passive income, write your own story, and direct your dollars towards creating your future.
Oh, what kind of future?
Your dream. The future of your dreams. Oh, come on. I got it.
We're going to have to see if Scott's got it. I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
Scott,
Kim.
what do you
All
got?
right.
I'm
Sorry,
going to fill
Candace.
the last 2 with positive change there. So
That's right. Direct your dollars towards
Positive
positive
income.
change.
right. you don't
Okay.
split it and direct your
Look
dollars.
at that. There's the answers. This is fantastic.
Thanks, everybody.
That was, I've never had somebody come on and do a whole thing like that. That was excellent. Now, Matt, how do we get a hold of you? Is that the number that you're the email that you gave to us? That's where we find you.
Yeah. So I earlier on in the chat, I wrote down, hey, check out, my blog. It's got strategy, education, aspirational articles all in there. That's on my website. There's a link to buy the book on the website. There's a way to schedule a call with me. So schedule a call with me from the website on the contact page or on the front page. There's a thing to my Calendly, but it's all on Picheny.com. Pretty easy to remember. It's my last name, Picheny.com. I have a newsletter there.
And if any of you guys want to order it up on Amazon, it's going to be there. You can see Matt is super passionate about it and we want to support you. So always, if there's an opportunity to learn from a Zoomator here, please support each other and order up the book. It always helps. So Matt, again, thank you so much for joining us. I so appreciate it. If